My name is Chelsea Botchke. I am a product marketing manager here at SignalWire and your host for today. This live wire is going to dive into, you guessed it, messaging campaigns. We are going to look at creating and maintaining campaigns and dealing with why they're so overwhelming, why there's so many steps, and why there are so many changes happening. I am pleased to welcome our Director of Carrier Operations, Steve Starr, above me, and our Carrier Operations Manager, Kat Collins, to the virtual stage. Steve has been working in the communications industry for nearly 20 years and joined us here at SignalWire in 2023. With his extensive background, I don't know anyone better to have joined me today. And along with Steve is Kat, who has been living in the trenches of campaigns for the last several years. She joined SignalWire in 2019, and she knows all the do's and don'ts of the industry like the back of her hand.
Thanks, Chelsea. Welcome, everyone. I am Steve Starr, Director of Carrier Operations for SignalWire. I've been with SignalWire for a little over a year and a half now. Before my time here, I was at a regional telecommunications provider for about 17 years. So let's get to this. What are some things to consider before creating your first campaign? First, what is the overall purpose of your campaign? Do you want to just generate sales leads, maybe send some one-time passwords, possibly update customers on the status of an order? Understanding your purpose is an important first step as it will help guide everything else. You must figure out who your target audience is. Together with your overall purpose, this will help design your campaign. Now you can begin to create your content. Being clear and concise is very important. Your message should include your brand name. Now you need to decide how often you send messages. It is also very important to set the correct cadence for your purpose. Order updates, that's pretty easy. They just send them as they happen. Marketing related, you don't want to overwhelm or annoy the end user. Don't forget to make sure the campaign follows all regulatory guidelines. Opting consent or opting out, make sure that it's not part of disallowed content. We'll cover more of this later. Test. After your campaign is accepted, do some testing. It is helpful if you have some end users on different networks and different devices who are willing to receive some test messages. Then decide what metrics you want to monitor. This is important for knowing how well your campaign is performing. Apart from just delivery reports, there are various other metrics. Click-through rates is a popular option. If you include a URL, you can track how often that URL is clicked. And then decide on the budget for your messaging. There are 3 parts to sending the message. First, the campaign fee. This is based on the campaign and will vary. Second is the messaging cost, both sending and receiving messages. This is fairly constant, typically per message. And then third are carrier fees. These are additional fees charged by mobile operators for delivering the message. These can vary by mobile operator and are published on our website. So you might be asking, there we go. So you might be asking, who is responsible for maintaining the list of campaigns that are registered? Well, this is the campaign registry, or TCR as it's commonly known. TCR is an industry-led organization that manages the registration of messaging campaigns for A2P or application-to-person messaging. TCR was established to improve transparency, help reduce spam, and help protect consumers from unwanted messages. At SignalWire, we can help get your campaign registered with TCR. Larger organizations may opt to work directly with TCR for the registrations. In this case, you can still work with SignalWire as your messaging partner. All right, so why do we have to register with TCR? The short answer, it's pretty much required. The industry is slowly moving towards eliminating unregistered messaging, with many aggregators blocking it altogether. Remember the carrier fees? Some mobile operators charge higher carrier fees for unregistered messages. You will get better delivery with registered messages and can get higher throughput. On the bottom of this slide are a list of various use cases that you can use to register your campaign. Each one comes with a different set of requirements and restrictions, so it's important to choose the correct use case for your campaign. Selecting, say, one-time password and then sending marketing-related messages could result in your campaign being blocked. Sometimes a campaign can fall into different use cases. We can help guide you to what is best. So, to register a campaign, you will need to provide the following: information about your business. For example, the legal name and DBA, a tax ID or EIN with the issuing country, address information, and online presence information. The use case, which we just briefly discussed, message content. These are sample messages with what your users can expect. Providing several examples is best. And then compliance with opt-in, opt-out practices. These are the steps that users will take to opt in to receiving messages or opt out of your messaging. This information is used to classify and approve your campaign. There are fees associated with registration, which vary depending on the type of campaign. These fees cover the cost of processing and maintaining compliance records. You can view the current brand and campaign fees through our developer guide. So I would like to introduce my colleague, Kat Collins, the manager of carrier operations.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. So what is so messy about messaging? First off, understanding the complexities that surround 10DLC messaging helps in navigating the industry more effectively and helps anticipate future trends. There are multiple standards and protocols businesses can use to reach their customer base. Most businesses in the US will use SMS or MMS to get their messages across. However, there's also RCS, WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal, and each has its own features and limitations, which can create compatibility issues and fragmentation. Different countries often have differing regulations regarding privacy, content, and spam prevention. Navigating through these laws can be complicated for businesses that operate across multiple regions. Staying up to date with continuously evolving technologies and trends while maintaining older systems and processes can be challenging. And finally, managing and controlling spam and malicious content still remains a significant challenge to this day, which can greatly affect user experience and trust. Why are there so many requirements? When creating a messaging campaign or registering a brand, understanding the requirements is crucial due to the dynamic nature of the process, which varies across carriers and evolves over time. Simply put, there's a reason why these rules exist, as bad actors are actively trying to come up with new tactics and ways to get around registration requirements. Industry groups like CTIA and even the mobile carriers themselves will periodically update best practices for messaging. Each carrier's approach to protecting their networks may evolve differently, leading to varied requirements across the industry. So how does SignalWire address the evolving requirements of messaging campaigns? We use a combination of proactive strategies, robust technology, and industry partnerships. First, we stay aligned with industry standards by closely collaborating with industry bodies like the Campaign Registry, so we can anticipate and adapt new standards before they become mandatory. By monitoring updates from carriers and industry regulators, we can promptly update systems and communicate necessary actions to our customers. Second, we take education very seriously. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here with you today. We have dedicated team members within our support and carrier operations teams that offer guidance and help navigate blocks in your campaign registration. This all reduces the risks of non-compliance, which also means your campaigns stay active even if there are changes to the industry. And third, SignalWire's APIs are designed to be flexible, allowing businesses to adapt quickly to changes in requirements without needing to overhaul their messaging infrastructure. This adaptability is key to maintaining compliance as rules evolve.
All right, let's work on getting your first campaign registered. Before registering your brand or campaign, you will need to decide if you would like to handle this process yourself or have SignalWire manage it for you. There are advantages to both, and in both cases, SignalWire would be your messaging partner. SignalWire manage brands and campaigns. You can use our simple form or API to submit your registration, and we'll handle sending these on to TCR and our partners for approval. This is typically preferred if you are only doing a few brands or campaigns. Self-registered, you'll need to sign up with TCR as a CSP After this, you can submit all registrations directly to TCR and then share those with SignalWire, who will then review and approve them. This is typically preferred if you handle hundreds or thousands of brands in campaigns. So registering a campaign can be a 1 or 2-step process. The first time you go to register a campaign, you will also need to register your brand. Brand registration. This is submitting information about your organization to validate you are who you say you are. You only have to do this once for each brand. After the brand is vetted and registered, you will get a brand ID so you can submit your campaign registration. Registering your campaign, you will need to submit a brand ID, use case, how users can opt in and out, and provide some sample messages. The more clear the information, the faster the registration can happen. Creating a quality campaign registration for TCR involves meeting specific criteria and ensuring clarity and compliance in every aspect of the messaging campaign. So, clear campaign purpose and description. The description should be accurate. The description should accurately reflect the content of the messages that will be sent. Include details about the type of messages, alerts, reminders, promotional offers, customer service interactions. And then brand identity. Ensure that the brand associated with the campaign is clearly identified and verifiable. This includes having a consistent brand name that matches across your campaign and company documentation. Provide any relevant business registration numbers or official documents that can aid in verifying the legitimacy of the business. Message samples. Submit examples of messages that will be sent during the campaign. This includes the exact wording and media that will be used. Sample messages should reflect the typical user interaction and not just isolated examples. Messages need to also include your brand information so end users know who the messages are coming from. Consent. Clearly outline how consent is obtained from customers, ensuring you are compliant with legal requirements. Include details on how users can also opt out of messages, demonstrating a clear and easy process for customer withdrawal. Links. If URLs are included in messages, they should be relevant, lead to a secure site, and functional. Avoid links that redirect to unrelated pages or that could be considered misleading. Public URL shorteners are not allowed. You can only use shortened URLs relevant to your brand. For example, Amazon using amzn.com. The layout. Messages should be well structured and easy to read with logical flow of information. Avoid excessive capitalization, unclear abbreviations, or jargon. Compliance. Adhere to all relevant regulations, such as the Telephone Consumer Protection Act and the General Data Protection Regulation, if applicable. Include privacy policy links where necessary, and ensure campaigns respect user privacy and data protection laws. Documentation. Be able to provide any necessary documentation upon request from regulatory bodies or TCR. User feedback. Have a plan in place to gather and incorporate user feedback to continuously improve messaging and engagement strategies. Creating a well-defined, transparent, and compliant registration for TCR not only ensures adherence to regulations, but also builds trust with recipients and enhances the overall effectiveness of your messaging campaigns. So, when registering and managing messaging campaigns, several post-registration issues can occur, impacting the effectiveness and compliance of your campaigns. Here are some common challenges and considerations. Testing. After the campaign is fully activated and elected by the DCA, test the campaign to ensure the messages are delivered as intended and displayed correctly across different devices and platforms. Be prepared to adjust the campaign based on performance metrics, which is a post-registration best practice. Spam blocks and filtering. Spam filters can block messages suspected to be spam. Overly promotional, contains keywords, or sent in high volumes without proper pacing. Auditing opt-in lists. It's crucial to maintain and audit lists regularly. Carriers and regulatory bodies may require proof that recipients have consented to receive messages. Inadequate management of these lists can lead to compliance issues and potential legal challenges. High stop percentages. A high stop percentage of recipients opting out stop messages can signal to carriers that the content is not well received or relevant, which might increase the likelihood of being flagged as spam. Including URLs in messages. Including URLs in messaging campaigns can trigger spam filters, especially if the links lead to new or untrusted domains. It's important to use private URL shorteners and ensure that the landing pages comply with best practices and security content. Misalignment with registered campaign details. If the live messaging content or behavior deviates significantly from what is registered with the carrier or platform, it can lead to messages being blocked or the campaign being suspended. Content quality and relevance. Ensuring that the content is of high quality and relevant to the audience is crucial. Poorly crafted messages or irrelevant content can lead to higher opt-out rates, negative feedback, which in turn affects the campaign performance and deliverability. Technical issues. Technical problems such as issues with message delivery, infrastructure, sender ID, registration errors, or incorrect message format can also affect the success of a messaging campaign. All right, so the first thing is we talked about needing to have the brand registered, which I'm going to use an existing brand, one that's already active. This assumes that you've already gone through that process. So we're going to continue. So basic information. So name of the campaign. This will just be called Steve's. All right, and the description. So the description should be something that clearly defines what this messaging campaign is going to be about. So I'm going to say marketing messages about Steve stuff and occasional order updates. And I spelled occasional wrong. Okay. SMS use case category. So it's typically going to be marketing. So we're going to say marketing. The status callback URL is optional. I don't have a webhook to put in here, so I'm just going to skip that step for now. Number pooling. So we didn't discuss number pooling. This is used if you will have 50 or more phone numbers associated with your campaign. In most cases, that won't be needed. And so typically you would be selecting no here. Let's see here. And then that's optional. Then call to action. So the call to action is how users will sign up to receive your messages. So we'll just say users will opt into receiving marketing related messages by filling out an interest form on our website. Sample message content. So, first sample message. So these are messages that most users will receive. If you allow two-way messaging with the end user, you wouldn't necessarily include all the individual messages. We'll say hello from stuff. And the deals going on right now. You must also include how users can opt out of receiving the messages. So stop to end or abbreviating that is a common practice there. Sample message too. So another way to include your brand is to just put it at the beginning, and then you can say new deal day offers. Here to see that stuff. And again, we'll include, I'm going to do that. Okay. To end. So if you had more messages that would be sent, you can add more sample messages here. So we are going to continue. So if we allowed our users to opt in, we could put stuff here for that, but we're just going to skip that. An opt-out message. So this is how users will, or this is the message that users will get when they stop receiving our messages. So if they send the stop keyword, we are sorry to see you go. And then you must verify that they won't receive these. You will no longer messages. All right, help message. So if users send the help keyword, you have to respond with some help. And this is what you'll say there. So again, we'll start with our brand, Steve Stuff. We can tell them what they can do as far as commands. So reply stop, end, or if they need further assistance, please call. And then we can put a phone number to call. You can optionally put an email in there if you wanted to. Whatever works best for you with that, but you have to provide some sort of assistance with that. So if we allowed opt-in keywords, we could put that here. You could put start if someone was to actually test the number. Opt-in keywords are not necessarily required. Your opt-out keywords, so stop and then help or help, those are the most common there. All right, and then we're going to continue. And then these are some disclosures of what the messaging will have. So does it have to do with direct lending? Nope, so we won't check that. Messages in the campaign will include an embedded link. It's possible, yeah, we will include message or links because we're going to say click here for our deals. Will they include an embedded phone number separate from the required help information? No, we don't plan to do that, so we're not going to check that box. Or age-gated content, and so in certain situations, if by law the content you're sending is over 18 or over 21, then you must check that. And there's a lot of restrictions as far as those items go, and we can help guide you on that one. So we're just going to hit continue. And then we're going to say, yep, I read the terms and conditions that were presented before. And then it also tells you what the charges are going to be. So for this, we're going to get charged $30. It's $10 a month. And so you have to pay for the first 3 months up front. And then there's a one-time campaign vetting fee. So this is to cover the charges of having the campaign reviewed and verifying all the information that you submit into it. We're going to hit continue. Success, it's done, kind of. So after this is done, the campaign will get sent to SignalWire, and we will take a look at it, verify the information that you provided is accurate and correct, and there's nothing fishy going on with it, and then we will approve it. This could take 3 to 5 days. Typically, we see approvals happen quicker than that. So we're going to continue here. If you wanted to, you could assign phone numbers here. You don't have to. You could opt to skip it, or we can assign phone numbers. So here's our campaign. We're going to continue. And then you can just search your purchase numbers here. And so we're just going to grab that one. Again, if you had a webhook URL to receive status updates, you could input that there. I do not. And so we're just going to hit finish. All done. So at this point, we are all set with the registration. And now we just got to wait for SignalWire to get back with us and let us know if that campaign is approved or not.
So what happens if you're hitting a snag, whether that be with your registration or with your live traffic? When creating brands and campaigns, several common mistakes can lead to delays. Number one, incomplete or inaccurate information. So if you're missing details or if you provide incorrect details about the brand, company, or campaign, that can result in the registration being rejected or delayed for further clarification. Failure to comply with carrier guidelines. Each carrier may have specific guidelines and requirements. Not adhering to these can cause significant delays. Not understanding campaign types. Choosing the wrong use case option for your registration can result in rejections and the need to restart the process with a new registration. Please be aware that you cannot change use case after a campaign is registered. You have to create a new one. Ignoring compliance requirements. Not meeting the necessary compliance standards, such as opt-in, opt-out processes, data privacy rules, or consent regulations, can halt the approval process. Delayed documentation submission. Some registrations require supporting documents or proofs. Not submitting these on time or missing them altogether can slow down the process. Poorly defined campaign description or call to action. Ambiguity in the intended description or call to action for the campaign can lead to confusion and delays in the approval. And finally, delayed responses to feedback. Once feedback or requests for additional information are received, slow responses from your side will only further delay the process. So to text or not to text, here we have two examples, one being an effective message for business communications and the other not so much. Let's take a look at example one and why it's effective. It says, "Hello, Steve. Thank you for contacting our support department today. We hope all your questions were answered, but if you need additional assistance, the ABC company support team is available at email address or by phone at phone number. You can also visit abccompany.com, text back to be connected with an agent, or stop to unsubscribe." So with example one, we have personalization, which uses the customer's name to make the interaction feel more real. There's a clear call to action, which provides explicit options for the customer to either text back or call for help. There's branding, which clearly identifies the company, which aligns with transparency and trust. There's opt-out messaging, which clearly states that you have the option to opt out of future messaging to comply with TCR requirements. And there's a link, a clear link that has company branding. Now let's take a look at example two and why it's ineffective. It reads, "Thanks for contacting support department. If you need more help, go to our website and click customer support." There's no branding, doesn't identify who the company is, there's no personalization, there's no opt-out messaging. It includes instructions to go to a website, but it doesn't provide a direct link, and it uses unprofessional language, and it has a typo. If you have a fully registered messaging campaign and you're seeing live traffic be blocked, here are the steps you should take. Number one, review the notification. Check any communications, notifications, or error codes from the carrier or messaging provider. They may provide significant or specific reasons for the block, such as non-compliance with guidelines, content issues, or complaints. Number two, contact your messaging provider. Reach out to your messaging service provider or aggregator immediately. They can offer insights into why the campaign was blocked and help facilitate a resolution. If you use SignalWire, our support team is more than happy to help you troubleshoot. Number three, verify compliance. Ensure that your campaign fully complies with all relevant guidelines, including opt-in, opt-out mechanisms, message frequency, and content regulations. Review your messaging practices to identify any potential violations. It's important for me to mention here that carriers will be able to see if you aren't scrubbing your opt-in lists. If you're sending bulk messages to inactive handsets, that is a red flag that can cause your messages to be flagged as spam. Also, if you receive a high opt-out rate, meaning at least 5% of your recipients are responding with stop requests, the carriers will see this and they can flag your messaging as spam. Rest assured, we can help you clear up these blocks, but you have to work with us and also audit your opt-in lists. Number four, address complaints. If the block is due to user complaints, investigate the nature of these complaints and make necessary adjustments to your messaging strategy. This could involve refining message content, frequency, or opt-in and opt-out processes. Number 5, submit an appeal or reinstatement request. Work with your provider to submit an appeal or request reinstatement of your campaign. Provide any necessary documentation, corrections, or clarifications to address the reasons for the block. And finally, monitor for future issues. After resolving the block, closely monitor your campaign for any issues. Ensure that all compliance measures are maintained to avoid future disruptions. Some content is explicitly disallowed from being sent via SMS/MMS with SignalWire. Including prohibited content in your messages can get your account flagged. Repeat or serious offenses can result in suspension or cancellation of your SignalWire services. These are your top 4, but the list continues on with over 25 topics in industry. Top 4 being lead generation, collections, financial services, and third-party insurance. Rule of thumb is if it's not legal in all 50 states, it's a no-go, and some examples of that include marijuana, gambling, and sports betting. Okay, so these 5 categories are part of SHAFT, which is an acronym coined by CTIA, which are subject to restrictions or outright bans in many communication platforms. Messaging platforms and service providers typically enforce these guidelines to comply with legal standards and community guidelines, ensuring that content distributed through their networks does not violate regulatory requirements or social norms. Understanding and adhering to these restrictions is crucial to avoid penalties, including bans, fines, or negative impacts or brand reputation. A severity 0 violation requires an urgent response, including halting the campaign traffic, conducting a full audit, and working with legal and compliance teams to mitigate the impact and prevent future occurrences. You can get a SEV 0 from sending phishing, social engineering, illegal content, and even legitimate traffic that generates a lot of end-user complaints can result in a SEV 0. So audit your opt-in lists. If your campaign has been permanently suspended, you must re-register with TCR, but depending on the nature of the suspension, your brand may be unable to register new campaigns.
All right, that was a lot of information. Thank you, guys. Now, we have about 20 minutes. I know there was a lot of information that we kind of just threw at you. So does anybody have any questions? I didn't see any in the chat, but definitely feel free to unmute yourself at this time if you want to ask yourself, or go ahead and throw it in the chat.
I had one thing. I specifically wanted some more information just regarding call to actions, and specifically what they are and like what exactly it is to like what call to action you're trying to actually make with it.
I'll take
So, okay, go ahead.
Well,
you can.
Okay, sure. Essentially, a call to action in summary is what you're getting the end user to do. It can mean multiple things. So like when you're creating a campaign, it can mean how are you getting that phone number from the end user that you want to text? How are you getting the consent? What steps are they doing to give you consent? With a message, if you want the end user or recipient to do something, like take some sort of action with the message, like click this link to review our deals, that is also an example of a call to action.
I
so
see.
You're making them do something.
I see. So I always actually assumed it was the act of like the opt-out messaging was part of like a call to action. Like if you're angry with us or you want to do something, here's the action that you can take to do it. So that's good to know. Thanks.
That technically could be a call to action, telling them to opt out if they're unhappy.
Sure.
I could see where the confusion would be.
What are we looking at for turnaround time? So if somebody submits a brand or a campaign from start to finish, like what are we looking at for time frame?
If you have a very clean registration, if you provide all the information we're asking for, if everything fits within our DCA standards of the registration, turnaround time can be less than 48 hours for brand and campaign registration. The quickest we've seen is 24 hours. But if you're missing information, or if we need to go back and ask you for additional details, that can definitely inflate that time.
So stay on top of your stuff. Respond to your emails.
Just respond to us. We're here to help.
What about like an EIN, or what happens if you don't have one? And we're talking, right, tax information.
Yep. Then you will need to register for an EIN. It's not an overly complicated process to obtain one, but it is required for submitting campaign or brand registrations.
And if you refuse to get an EIN, you can use a toll-free number instead. Toll-free has nothing to do with the campaign registry. It's a totally separate verification process. You just don't need an EIN.
Mhm.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions from the group? Everybody's just trying to process. Oh, we got one. Okay. So Hugh asks, how about if SMS activity is person to person for UCAS type services, or SMB telephony, if messages are not marketing related?
Yeah, so it's kind of two different things with this is what you're looking at. So there is person to person or peer to peer messaging, and there's also a UCAS type of use case. And so I'll cover both of these. Person to person or P2P messaging is just as it sounds. It's a person to a person, but the difference between that and a UCAS campaign is whether or not it's business related or not business related. So if I am just texting my mom to say happy birthday or whatever, that's considered P2P. But if I'm acting as a business or an agent of a business or on behalf of a business or doing anything that's business related, then it can no longer be considered P2P, and it has to be registered with a campaign. And UCAS is a type of campaign that can be registered. There's some caveats with it and things we can go through, but it's not an overly difficult use case to get registered. In this case, this is where you might have a set of business agents who have their own phone number associated with them, and then they are texting possible clients about that business. So still kind of, a person to a person, but it's business related, and so that's why you have to register it as UCAS. Hugh, does that help answer that? Or is there any other questions with that? Yep, you're welcome.
He says thank you. So okay, so I have a question. I have lots of questions, but so Steve and I both reside in Michigan. In Michigan, marijuana is legal. That's not the case federally, right? And it's not the case in all states. So if I own a dispensary, am I allowed to send marketing SMS or MMS? It's business related. Am I allowed to do that?
No, the short answer is no, you're not. So
I
that's
don't
part
own
of yeah, that's part of the disallowed content. So whatever your brand is and your messaging is about, it has to be legal in all 50 states. And so because it's not considered legal in all 50 states and it's not federally legal, then it is not allowed content, and you will not be able to send those messages.
So even if my messages don't say anything about marijuana, I cannot send them because of what my business is. Correct.
Unless because the brand will get vetted and it'll check online presence and all of that. Chances are something will come up and say, "Oh, this is marijuana related," and it most likely will not be allowed to happen.
Perfect.
So, yep.
Okay, let's see. Steve says if we just want to text for business applications, like providing internal information from AI assistants to customers, is this needed? Assuming you're meaning like if you have to register.
Yes. So registration is required for all business use cases. So if you're going to use SignalWire for business messaging, doesn't matter what your use case is, it's going to need to be registered. The campaign registry has a bunch of different various use cases that could be, so this could be like an account notification or a customer care use case. It doesn't necessarily mean just marketing.
Perfect. Hopefully that answered what you need, Steve. Yeah, he says thanks. Okay, good. Anybody else? We still got a few more minutes.
If you're unsure of how you should be registering, I definitely encourage you to reach out to our carrier operations team. We can definitely discuss your use case in further detail and give you like a nice path to follow for registration.